Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of October 9th, and we have a lot going on this month. The city of Lee Summit is hosting a blood drive today from 10 to 4 at the city's maintenance facility located at 1971 Southeast Hamblen Road. The Community Blood Center says now more than ever is the time to donate. Find a link to register on our Facebook page at City of LS. Walk-ins are welcome. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Sweep the Summit is October 14th. Help tackle litter and debris on our streets and in our streams. Volunteer for one of 2 environmental activities, Street Clean or Stream Team. Recycle Fest will also be taking place that Saturday at the city's maintenance facility. Find more information, including waiver forms, registration, and acceptable recyclable items at cityofls.net/sweep. Are you looking for a change of pace in your career path? The City of Lee Summit is hosting a career fair and expo October 18th from 2 to 7 p.m. at the Gamber Community Center. The city offers rewarding public service jobs in a wide variety of fields. At the fair, engage with hiring departments, network, learn about open positions, and land your dream job. Explore career opportunities at lspeople.net. Join District 3 Council members Phyllis Edson and Mayor Pro Tem Beto Lopez for a town hall on October 19th at the training facility at the Lee Summit Police Department. Receive an update on major projects and visit with department representatives. This town hall is a come-and-go event. Unable to attend, the meeting will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. And the city, in partnership with the Missouri Department of Transportation, will be hosting an online public hearing October 3rd through the 17th for the Missouri 291 North Interchange at US 50 Highway Improvements Project. The public can view project plans and exhibits, submit comments, and ask questions. The project is estimated to begin in late summer or early fall of 2024. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, armed.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know.
Please, someone, please, how can I help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. You know, say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
This month's Council Member Spotlight is all about Mayor Bill Baird. Check it out.
I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, Mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor!
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward, and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee's Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
Thanks for watching the Lee's Summit Rundown. I'm Laura Ingeman. See you next time.
Welcome, everyone. Would you please rise for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Father, we ask that you bless this council that has been called to lead the community in which we all live, work, and play. Help us listen to our constituents and always be ready to pay attention and learn from those we represent. Remind us so we do not forget that we are not only leaders of our community, but also servants to the people to work for the common good of all. Grant us the wisdom, courage to know and to do what is right, what is proper, and guide us by the spirit of the community, but by what is good, right, and true. Bless all those in attendance tonight and keep us all safe. A special blessing is requested for all that are experiencing violence and upheaval in the world. Amen.
Again, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order the City of Lee Summit regular session number 51 as amended. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember DeMauro.
Here.
Councilmember Shields. Here. Councilmember Edson.
Here.
Councilmember Felker. Councilmember Pryor. Here. Councilmember Hodges. Here. Councilmember Lovell. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Baird.
Here. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt? Yes, I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you all. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That's also approved unanimously. Thank you. And then we go to Council Roundtable. Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. Next Thursday, October 19th, Mayor Pro Tem Lopez and I are holding a District 3 Town Hall from 5:30 to 7 at the Lee Summit Police Department Training Facility on Tudor. So everybody's welcome to come out. I think Mayor Pro Tem Lopez is baking cookies, so it should be a good night.
Good. Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that this Friday evening, there's an event by Lee Summit Creates. It'll be at the Bridge Space, and you can buy tickets at leesummitcreates.org. It sounds like it's going to be a fun event. And the undefeated Lee Summit West plays Lee Summit North, I think at Lee Summit North. So that's going to be a fun game because one of them's going to walk away losing the game. They're both undefeated, I believe. Yeah.
They are.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. It's called the Art of Superstition, I think, the event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be fun. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, we've got Sweep the Summit this Saturday. Is it this Saturday? Yep. October 14th. We got 3 different opportunities that you could take part of. One is a street clean, 10 a.m. to noon at the city maintenance facility. It's a coordinated effort to tackle litter and debris on specific segments of city-owned streets, and you'll gather at 10 a.m. at the city maintenance facility. This is all of these are going to be under City of Lee Summit, cityofls.net/sweep. The next event is Stream Team. If you've never cleaned a stream, it's very exciting. You never know what you're going to run into type of event. They're going to meet at Langsford Park, which is 1709 Southeast Langsford at 10 a.m. And they'll meet in the parking lot of Baxter's Coffee. And then there's also Recycle Fest, which is also at the city maintenance facility, where you can drop off items that need to be recycled or refurbished, and you can help us reduce harm to the environment and save landfill space. Thank you to the city for putting on these events. We try to do this in the spring and fall and continuing those efforts. Right. That will take us to a couple of proclamations. These are two of my favorites of the year. So let's start with our guests in the middle aisle. Come forward, please, and I'll read the proclamation for Feed Lee Summit Month. Hello, everyone. Come on this way. That's fine. Because we'll get a photo when we get done here. But let me start off by reading, and then I'll go down the line and let you introduce yourselves and who you're with, and if you want to make any comments. So here we go. Whereas hunger is a universal social problem increasing in cities across the country and throughout the world. Whereas children, senior citizens, veterans, the disabled, the unemployed, the poor, and the homeless are all affected by hunger. Whereas finding solutions to end hunger is an ongoing challenge, and providing food for individuals and families is a top priority for local nonprofit organizations in the city of Lee Summit. And whereas our community is comprised of compassionate, philanthropic people who desire to help their neighbors and fellow citizens by supporting and contributing to local nonprofit organizations. And whereas to help alleviate hunger in our community, on November 10, 2023, the 3 Rotary Clubs of Lee Summit are sponsoring the Feed Lee Summit fundraising event and will donate proceeds to Cold Water, Lee Summit Social Services, Meals on Wheels, Boost for Success, and One Good Meal, benefiting over 4,700 residents. By virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lee Summit, I do hereby proclaim November 2023 as Feed Lee Summit Month. Give me a round of applause, please. Thank you all for coming. Would you tell me your name and who you're with and any other comment you would like to make?
I'm Catherine Murphy. I am the chair of Feed Lee Summit for 2023. And I just want to thank our community for supporting this wonderful event, as well as our wonderful beneficiaries here for dedicating their life to bettering others. So thank you very much.
My name is Roberta MacArthur. I'm the director of One Good Meal. And I want to thank you for helping us. You've been there for me for a lot of years.
I'm Monica Humbard. I'm executive director of Cold Water of Lee Summit. And I just want to thank the Rotary and the city and all the people that come out and help us on a day-to-day basis, make sure that all the families are taken care of here in our community.
My name is Susan Kelly, and I am with Boost for Success. And we provide snacks and snack pantries with our wonderful schools in Lee Summit. And I think this is really amazing that we have this, just all these people empowering these organizations that are already doing something to help the hungry in our community. And I'm pretty overwhelmed by it.
I'm Megan Salerno. I'm the executive director at Lee Summit Social Services, and we would be nothing without our amazing community. So thank you.
I'm Tony Schwartz, director of development at Lee Summit Social Services, and it's been amazing to step into the. Thank you guys for everything.
I'm Susie Newsome, and I'm with Meals on Wheels of Lee Summit. And because of you and because of all of the generosity of this town and this event, we're able to deliver emergency meal packs to all of our clients tomorrow. And what this is for is if we ever have days that we can't get out because of the streets are dangerous and we don't want to put our volunteer delivery drivers in danger, then we can't deliver meals. So they have in the bag, they've got enough food for 5 meals for those non-delivery days. So thank you so much.
I'm Mike Gann with Lee Summit Meals on Wheels, and I want to thank the Rotary clubs for what you're doing. It's very, very important to our funding for our year. And I just want to thank the mayor for recognition we're getting for that. It means a lot, and it helps with our donations and everything.
The event itself is one of the most fun because it's a great, it feels so good to give back in this way, and you're spending money at an event and you feel good about what you're doing, and it's also one of the more just ones where you can really just get comfortable and relax. So it's a good time. Yep. Yeah, it's a good one to make. You're probably sold out by now.
But we've got a lot of really fun things planned. So it's a speakeasy theme this year. So cigars, whiskey, and chocolate. So you don't want to miss out. There's something for everybody. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, get them.
All right, are you ready for a photo? Thank you all. Thanks for all coming, everybody. Who gets this? Okay, there we go. Also, Fire Prevention Week. Who would like to come down here with me? I see some. Of course, Assistant Chief Eden, but he's got some help tonight. Yeah, come on over. All right. Whereas the City of Lee Summit is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. Whereas Lee Summit Fire Department first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas in the United States, home fires killed more than 2,800 in 2021, and fire departments responded to 338 home fires where cooking is the leading cause. Having a planned and practiced home fire escape plan and working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. Whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire. And whereas 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. By virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Lee Summit, I do hereby proclaim October 8th through 14, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. I tell you what, and then you got fires that start in garages, from batteries. There's a million things that start these fires. Fires, are they not?
Yes, sir. Mayor, I'd like to say thank you for turning up the heat to raise awareness for fire safety. It's a little toasty in here today. But what I'd like to say is that Fire Prevention Week is something that we should observe every day. And knowing that cooking fires are the leading cause of fires in this country and the leading cause of fire injuries, please take the precautions to protect your homes and yourselves from fire. And I'd also like to mention that it's the fire department's role, everybody in the fire department, for preventing fire and fire safety, but it's a primary role of the prevention division to make sure that we provide a safe community through the enforcement of up-to-date fire codes, through education and fire investigation. And with me today, I have Laura DeCourcy, who's our administrative assistant. She keeps everything organized within the division. And paramedic engineer Rob McQueen, who is one of our shift investigator inspectors, which we just started this June, and a great asset to the division and the city. Captain Craig Hill, who is just recently promoted to battalion chief and will take that role over in November. And then last but not least, as far as for who's here tonight, is Tyler Comfort, who is also one of our shift inspector investigators. Not with us tonight are engineer Mark Stillwell and Battalion Chief Ben Hicks, who's currently serving overseas with the States Army for the year. And hopefully we'll be returning safe and sound in March. And then last but not least, Freddie the Robot. We rarely appear together in the same room, but he's a great asset to our department as far as promoting fire safety through the community. And if you've been to Oktoberfest or Downtown Days, hopefully you all get the opportunity to meet him. But again, thank you very much. And one last reminder, November 5th, we get to change our clocks back. So when we fall back, check the batteries and your smoke alarms. Make sure that they're working because they will keep you alive. Thank you.
Thank you. That was pretty awesome. Thank you all for your service and for keeping us safe and helping prevent, because that's the best way. So let's take a photo together if you don't mind. Okay. Hold on a second. I have the microphone. Okay. Good. Well, that takes us to public hearings. We're going to get to some business now. We're going to close the regular session and open the public hearing. And the matter of agenda item 5A, this is a preliminary development plan for Tailormade Landing, 1600 Southeast Hamblen Road. Engineering Solutions, LLC is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk. Mr. Schlicht.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Matt Slish, Engineering Solutions, 50 Southeast 30th Street, Lee's Summit, Missouri. Here this evening with a fun new project, kind of on the southeast side of town, is going to be Tailormade Fieldhouse. So generally located south of Bailey and Hamblen Road, kind of as you're headed toward the Resource Recovery Park, the maintenance facility. Rick and Rachel purchased the parcel that is 1600 Hamblen a few years back and took the old existing barn, converted it into a shop and office facility for his construction company. And then now we're kind of starting the next phase, which is his hope to build a 48,000 square foot field house on the north side. During Planning Commission meeting, we did discuss some of the things that have happened down in that area. So we did highlight a few PDPs, one directly to the north and then a few to the south that had been processed, in the past, number of years out that way. The area generally is industrial. As you get further to the east, we have some residential units and commercial as you head to the north, and the car lots eventually as you get up towards 50 Highway. Overall, the site is essentially a 48,000 square foot facility, which I'll show you the inside in a little bit, with 176 parking spaces kind of flanked on the south side. In the initial phase, when we converted the barn into the office warehouse type facility, we installed the parking, the drive that comes off of Hamblen, and the detention basin. So we're just kind of continuing the development of the north side of this site. The facility, as you're looking at the pictures here, will house 4 full-size basketball courts, which can be converted into 4 full-size volleyball courts. It will also house a baseball infield to work on infield drills and skills, and a concession stand. The idea being, and the driven purpose for putting this here, is space is limited. In Lee's Summit, it's difficult to find space to practice, and especially basketball, volleyball, baseball. Soccer fields are becoming abundant and not enough yet, but they're still getting better. So the idea that Rick and Rachel had was to come in and develop something that people could come in, they could rent, they could utilize, they could provide an opportunity, just like mom and dad sits there and watches baseball or basketball or volleyball practice. You have a place to sit. You have a concession stand to get stuff. You have something to do other than just sitting in the gyms or wherever you may be. So a nice addition to the area. So inside, as you come south is to the bottom of the page, you can see the 4 courts that could be converted either to basketball or to volleyball. Up in the front would house the concession, some other kind of just ancillary uses, kind of a front mezzanine area or front area where they can have some tabletops or areas to work, the bank of restrooms, and then the indoor facility that will house the opportunity for training indoor baseball work as they go. We did have a community meeting. A neighborhood meeting was offered, and no one did show up, so there was not too many comments out of that one. Planning Commission, we received unanimous approval. There was a lot of discussion about the project and the need for this in the community, a lot of excitement. There was a lot of discussion that happened on Hamblen Road and the responsibility of the developer to purchase or to develop and improve that road. So just kind of from a basis of where you are, on the left side, That's essentially what Rick and Rachel bought. It was an old barn, basically facility, a piece. He then came in, they came in and developed and created the facility. And now what we're looking to do is continue that development on the north side of the site. So we're here for any questions and discussions as you may need.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. Shannon McGuire, Senior Planner. Please enter into the record Exhibit A, listed exhibits 1 through 20.
Please enter into the record Exhibit A, 1 through 20.
All right, so the applicant did do a pretty good job of coming over the project, so I won't be too repetitive, hopefully, as well as there's no new information since Planning Commission. So as they did state, they are seeking approval of a preliminary development plan to construct that 48,885 square foot field house. As you can see here from this map, the property is surrounded by PI zone properties on the north, south, east, and west. The applicant is seeking two modifications. Modification to the rooftop screening requirements, as well as modification to the configuration of the proposed parking stalls adjacent to the private road. The 2021 land use map does identify the area as industrial in nature. The proposed training facility is a consistent use with that land use designation, and does meet the goals of the comprehensive plan. The proposed field house is a use permitted under right under the existing, or permitted use by right under the existing PI zoning. Typically, property or development of property that currently exists in the PI zoning does not require a PDP, but since the applicant is seeking those two modifications, that's why it is before you today. Again, the proposed use is consistent and compatible with the abutting industrial districts to the north, south, east, and west. And the proposed use is a lower intensity use than some other industrial uses that would be permitted by right in this district. So for the architectural elements, it does kind of present an upscale warehouse look. And it is appropriate for the mixed architectural use and land uses in that area. They are proposing to use architectural metal panels, some Nietzsche Hall wall panels, as well as concrete and some glass storefronts. Again, the applicant has requested the use of architectural panels. Architectural metal panels are a building material that is limited. Step back here. The UDO does restrict building materials in the zoning district to masonry, concrete, stucco, or glass. Metal is limited to an incidental rule or as approved by City Council. The proposed metal is consistent with other developments throughout the city, such as churches, car dealerships, and recently some of the fire stations that you guys have recently approved. We'll get into the modifications here real quick. So they are seeking modification to the requirement that a parapet wall surround the entire building, not to screen any rooftop metal or rooftop mechanical units. So it's a very large building, and putting a parapet wall around the entire thing is a little excessive. It's not really practical. So what they are proposing is some inboard or bolt-on type screening around the equipment around here. This is the same modification that's been granted in the past for some of our larger buildings. Specifically, if you can remember Coleman Equipment out there on Lakewood Way, this is the same modification for that. So for these reasons, staff believes the modification request is reasonable, and we do support that request. Second modification is to the parking configuration along the private street. As you can see here on the south side of the private street, there are head-in parking stalls. The UDO does limit they shall no head-in parking from private or public right shall be permitted. They're asking to get a waiver to that. So the two uses out there really operate independently in opposite schedules, with the contractor primarily through the weekdays, where the field house is going to be operated in the evenings and the weekends. So the drive access really more functions not as a private street, but more as a private driveway to each individual use. This is similar to the drive access we have around Summit Fair. So in the proposed additional parking located on the street is going to serve as overflow parking through the transition periods between, say shift change, but practice changes between different teams. So it'll help traffic flow there. So staff does believe that the modifications is reasonable, and we do support that. The unimproved road policy, the project is subject to the unimproved road policy. Considered per the policy, an unimproved road is a narrow road that is less than 22 feet in pavement and is more consistent with a rural character. An interim standard is generally defined as a minimum of 2 12-foot travel lanes with 6-foot paved shoulders. Hamblen Road doesn't really fit that because it's already 30 feet wide, but does not have any paved shoulders as of now, putting it somewhere in between the unimproved and the interim road standards. So according to the unimproved road policy, no commercial development may be permitted on unimproved roadways. The applicant is requesting a waiver to permit the development on less than an urban standard. The applicant has proposed widening the road to 36 feet, providing those 2 12-foot paved lanes and 2 6-foot shoulders from Bailey Road to the south edge of the entrance drive, bringing Hamblen Road to that interim standard. Since Hamblen Road has such low traffic volume and is of an industrial nature in use, staff is supportive of that. So at the public hearing, we did have the public hearing at Planning Commission. There was quite a bit of discussion regarding staff's proposed original 7 conditions of approval. It mostly centered around the wording, the exact wording of those conditions. So a motion was made and carried unanimously to amend those and recommend that the approval of the application with the amended conditions as I have outlined here supported. So with the conditions of approval here and as outlined in my staff letter, the application does meet the Ignite comprehensive plan as well as the UD on the design and construction map. I can answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, questions for staff or applicant from council? Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. Shannon, you did a really good job, especially explaining the discussion about the unimproved road policy, because that's where I got into the Planning Commission meeting and just kind of got lost in the discussion, I think. So what's the distance that they're adding shoulders? Right to that.
If you look on the slide here, this red line indicates right here at Bailey all the way down to the south side of the entrance.
Well, how far is that?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Quarter of a mile or something?
Yeah, it's I think somewhere around 1,700 feet.
And Shannon, I'm sorry, would you just outline real quick what they're adding on to the shoulders?
So they'll add 6-foot paved shoulder on each side, as well as expand the road to 2 12-foot drive lanes at standard.
Okay. And give a cost on that? Give a cost on that?
I will defer that to the applicant.
We're expecting probably $150,000.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I received a message from the applicant asking about the excise tax. So I was wondering if you could just kind of break that down as to what exactly.
I will defer that to Director Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
not Director Johnston, but Michael Park, Director of Public Works. The question is, what is the excise tax, or an estimate of how much it is?
So I think they have an estimate of how much it is. I think,
Yeah.
I actually don't, so my phone's doing something weird where it does the whole text conversation, so I have to read the voicemail that way, because I don't get voicemails now for some reason, but, and it said, it had a question about potentially the cost of the excise tax. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but if you could just break down exactly what it is and.
Sure. The excise tax was voter approved in the late 90s. And so it is a tax that's based on the use of the building and then the building size itself. So we would calculate that at the time we get building plans in. The ordinance is very prescriptive in how that tax is calculated. So we refer to what is the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, calculate how many trips for that particular land use are expected to be generated. That trip data comes from an average of studies across the country of similar uses. So in this case, it's a little unique. So it's not really a gym. It's sort of an athletic club, but as staff interprets the various uses that are available out of the hundreds of types of uses, we look for the one that really creates the least amount of tax in its bill. I know that my staff has been looking at probably some sort of a hybrid of an athletic club for athletic teams and more of a training facility, and then something else to try to find what we think is a reasonable trip rate for generating traffic. That trip rate is then applied to the square footage of the building, like I said, the plans that come in, and then that is multiplied by the tax rate for the type of use. So it's whether it's industrial use, commercial use, or residential use. That tax rate is set by the city council in the schedule of fees. And so that is the general formula for calculating the excise tax. It is a one-time tax on all new development, expansion of development, or change of use of development, and it's tied to the property. So if this particular business were to pay it prior to its occupancy, because it's a non-residential type of activity, the next business that comes in would get a credit for that previous tax paid or the use at that time. I'm trying to be as brief as I can without going into too much detail on how that tax is calculated. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Just gave me kind of an estimate so you know what the ballpark is for these type of uses that our staff has been projecting right around $270,000 for an excise tax. And then that particular tax is used to fund projects like Browning. It was used to fund improvements to Main Street and some of those projects that go to the Excise Tax Committee, which is a committee appointed by mayor and council of citizens who have a background and interest in transportation improvements. That fund is there to fund transportation road improvements exclusively throughout the community that benefit more than just one developer or one property owner.
Okay, that was a good description. It's not something I've ever seen waived. Is that something that has been waived in the past?
Because it is a tax, we can't waive it.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
It would
but I
be
just
like
wanted
asking to waive a property tax.
Yeah.
We can't do
Okay,
that.
and that's what I was thinking. I just wanted it publicly said. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councilmember Pryor, good?
Yep,
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez?
Sorry, Mr. Park. I try to give you a hand signal, but I have a follow-up question. I appreciate the explanation. Very helpful, and I know we've talked about this in the past. Specifically for this, pretty much the entire industrial area here, this part of our city. But this excise tax pretty much exists on all the industrial commercial areas. Is that right?
Excise tax applies to all development. From your single family home that gets built, I just kind of ballpark $1,000 is the excise tax due, to these commercial developments, warehouses, distribution centers. A convenience store would generate a tax somewhat equivalent to what you're seeing before you tonight.
And most of these other adjacent property owners have paid that excise tax as well then?
If they were developed over the 2000s to date, yes, they paid. There is no waiver being a tax.
Okay, all right, thank you, that clarifies. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere, Mr. Park. Stay close. Anybody else before I jump in? So, I'll just start with parking. There's a lot of access, and you squeezed, it looked to me like Matt Schlicht squeezed every single parking lot he could possibly out of this parcel. So that's interesting. Can you tell me how you think the flow will be? Because it looks like there's lots of access. I just wondered how you feel the road's gonna flow. Because this is always what I'm worried about is what's it like? Because I had kids and I dropped them off to facilities like these all the times and had to get into them all across, the Kansas City Metro and nation, to be for that matter. So I know what this is like. I think it looks good, but I just want to hear this through.
Right. So it's obviously, like they've said, it's kind of a unique use in that it's kind of like a church where you're going to have people coming and people going, and there's going to be a merging of times. So with the 4 courts and the baseball field, we expected each one of them to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 with kids and a parent and, a coach. So all of a sudden now you got 12 to 15 cars potentially, if they all drive individually, merging at the same time in the pieces of transition over. And so that's kind of how we came up with the plan. The idea in our thought is that if someone was going to come and stay, they would park in the initial lot that's on the outside easterly edge. Anyone that's going to do a drop off could make the loop, transition out and go. Anyone that was working in the facility or going to stay for a longer period of time would use the westerly side. And then the street parking essentially would be that excess person that goes through here and is packed, drops the kid off, and then has to park a car along the street. So that was kind of our 3 indicated people that we thought would be at that facility. And then at Planning Commission, there was a discussion that, what if a school or someone needed space that they don't have room at their own gym? The idea being the same thing, that this would have an opportunity that a bus could make a maneuver up and through, or since it's Fire Safety Week, the fire truck as well.
Okay. That's good. On the okay. I think it looks like it'll flow. There's definitely a lot of parking and such, so I'll save comments for later. Mr. Park, on that, or maybe this is applicant first, but is this just a practice facility, or will there be tournaments? Because I thought in one of the modifications it said there would be no tournaments.
That's my understanding, is the conditions of approval restrict it to just practice and prohibits tournament or gameplay. Out of respect, I think, of concern over parking and the amount of activity that tournaments and gameplay would typically see.
I mean, that would kind of, so when on the excise tax, I guess is where I'm headed with this, Mr. Park, is that's being taken into consideration that there's not going to be tournaments. So it's not like that type of facility. I just want to make sure that because I know that we can't exempt the tax, but I know that you've probably had lots of conversation with them with regard to how many people are coming and going and the capacity and the numbers. So you've zeroed in on this number and given consideration to the fact that they can't, they're not going to be having tournaments. Tournaments go till midnight. I've been at tournaments.
Exactly right. It's when I mentioned our staff was looking at various options among the land uses when calculating the tax. There's athletic club, there's fitness, there's a bunch of different types. If this were holding games and tournaments, it would be an athletic club, which is a very high trip generator and
right,
which you would experience, and then has
since
a much higher tax.
It's not going to be anybody in the building between 8 and 3, for the most part, except for summer. Summer could be busy all year long, especially with those basketball and volleyball courts. I just want to make sure that we're keeping all that in mind, that all those void times that they have. So
That's being considered.
all right, very good. Other questions? All right. We'll go to the part where we say, are there any questions, or excuse me, anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, please come forward. All right, any additional questions from council? All right, does the applicant care to make any further comment?
The only thing I'd add to the discussion on the use is that's what in planning commission, we asked to add that language of if tournaments or games or anything came and wanted to be at this facility, we'd come back with another preliminary development plan.
That's what that said, that
Right, and that's the
modification.
reason we asked, because the initial condition said we couldn't. And so the idea being is that Rick and Rachel, I think, would love to have the opportunity to have games and tournaments out there, but
Yeah.
as the process of building a 50,000 square foot building, and then the excise tax, and then the Hamblen Road improvements, the fees got so high that they couldn't get to that point. So now they got to
Yeah.
the point of let's build the facility,
Right,
let's generate a base of users, and then hopefully come back in and have that conversation that we'd love to have, which, because we think it's needed, it's just with the costs that are there, it's difficult to move
Sure.
forward with it that way. So
Sure.
that's the only I'd add.
thank you for bringing that forward. Okay. All right, hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and opening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask Shannon to put a map back up? Because I'm going to talk, my comments are about the map. The unimproved road
Oh, yeah.
map. I mean, I think this is a great project, but I have a little heartburn about asking this one business owner to improve a road that goes by two industrial parks. When so many other businesses are using that road. I don't know if we can get around that and maybe create a neighborhood improvement district to pay that cost. But if you divided that 150,000 by some of those other businesses using that same piece of road, it would be so much easier. But I also understand its policy. So that's my comment. I love the project, but I hate to ask this business owner to pay to improve that much of the road that's used by other businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. I just want to say that I agree with Councilmember Edson. It seems pretty steep to ask that one business to pay for all of the improvements, as Councilmember Edson stated, with a lot of the businesses using that same road. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
I agree with the two comments from my two colleagues here that were just made a second ago. And I guess just my opinion, I told Mr. Mullen earlier today that I think this concept, this type of service for our community is so badly needed. So thank you guys for wanting to do so. And, you know, I think most of us that have been involved in youth sports with our kids, we have driven all over the metro area, so it's kind of nice to have these kind of services here. So thank you all, and thank you for being open-minded about kind of maybe easing into it. I do think your business plan down the road, I think tournament play, you know, something I'm sure would be, there's a market for that, I'm sure. So, but thank you guys for doing this, and I think it's a great project for our community.
Thank you. So I just, I know it's hard, it is hard to see those kind of fees with regard to improvements and such. I will tell you that we do have to be consistent with regard to how we treat the other applicants, because we make them put in right-hand turns sometimes that cost $150,000 as well. And so I do want to be consistent. I definitely want, hopefully staff will look at the use tax and give that as much consideration as they can, just because that is another big fee for them. And that's a tough one, because I know that we have really worked on that use tax. We have categories that are very, very specific. And then you come in and you create something a little bit different than what totally fits that perfect category. So that challenges that. Please continue those discussions. And but as far as this project goes, I think we're jealous that our kids didn't get to, you know, have these types of things when we were raising our kids. A couple of us up here, because we were always looking for space, especially basketball. And I didn't have the fortune of having a volleyball player in my family, but with my kids. But baseball and softball and basketball were always just impossible to find in Lee Summit. So, I mean, we were practicing. Mr. Snook, is he here? we were practicing on like half of a court, like not even a court, but not even a half court, like even a smaller portion for the little kids. So thank you for investing in Lee Summit. Councilmember Shields.
Mayor, what my fellow council members said about the road improvements doesn't seem reasonable to me. I was sort of wondering that too, and I probably should have asked during the public hearing about a little. Is it possible to ask a couple additional questions at this point, or would we need to?
I'd have to reopen the public hearing. I'll reopen the public hearing. Okay.
Could anyone?
I'm going to close the regular session and open the public hearing. Yep.
Could anyone?
That means no comments, though.
Yes. Clarify just a couple of things, which is, why weren't these improvements constructed before for the other industrial developments there? And then also, what percentage of trips along that section, that red section there, do you think are generated by this new facility versus the other existing businesses on that? Like what share of the improvements are they using?
Try to answer the first part. I don't know, but it's not that much when you consider a percentage of existing traffic that they're contributing more traffic to. It's kind of wait and see. Right now, we're just using these manuals to project what the trip generation will be. But what we're talking, 10% less, I would guess, without knowing what all those volumes are. Why the other developments didn't, I would have to know when they came in. So the unimproved road policy was first established in 2005 and then reconfirmed and updated in 2016 by the city council. It is a city council policy that says this is the aesthetic and operational capacity we expect as our community develops. And so, yeah, it is difficult to see one project come in and you ask yourself, is it premature or is there something that can be done? That's why in discussions with the applicant, we didn't feel it was quite right to require them to improve it to an urban standard with curb and gutter and sidewalks and enclosed storm sewer, which is what the policy says to do for anything that is non-residential. And this is a non-residential use. And we felt like it was more appropriate to say, at least let's move towards the policy and get a paved shoulder in there. That paved shoulder provides the accommodation for somebody who wants to cycle or walk or jog to this facility. We felt it was a reasonable kind of compromise to meet the council's policy in that regard, as opposed to standing firm with the full road reconstruction and widening and all the other amenities that I mentioned that provide that urban standard. I do recall when the construction office was put in place, which is part of the adjacent business there. And it was a conscious decision at that time by the Planning Commission and City Council to waive the unimproved road policy, to essentially defer it for development on the surrounding property, this project, when that came through. So as staff, when we saw this project come through the pre-application process, we recalled that. And we said, well, it was the intent at that time of the mayor, the council, and Planning Commission to support that recommendation. So we felt we were doing what was asked by our recommendation you see here tonight. Certainly it's a policy that you can waive. Adding a paved shoulder doesn't add any capacity to the roadway outside of for your non-motorized travelers. But we do have some rutting issues along the roadway and widening of this pavement an additional 6 feet. I believe their approach is to widen on one side of the road and then shift the markings. So it's not widening both sides of the road. It's probably why the cost is only in that $150,000 range. It's not adding 6 foot on both sides of the shoulders, just one side.
Right of way there to.
Yes. Yeah, there's enough right away there now.
So the perspective of staff at this point, like this is already the compromise position. Asked for something.
We felt comfortable recommending this as a compromise. We don't want to typically deviate too far from the city council's policies. You set those policies, you want to consistently apply those policies, you have good reason for establishing to begin with. But we felt like we could support their request. I thought it was a reasonable accommodation as opposed to total reconstruction. It's also an industrial road. Like I said, a little lower volume. It's probably subject to a reconstruction later. When we talked about no tax increase bond projects, it was on that list. So it wouldn't do a lot of good to rebuild it now if we're going to rebuild at some point in the future, while there's still a lot more development that will happen along this corridor.
I think those are all the questions of fact that I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Councilmember DeMoro, we're back in the public hearing?
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you, thank you. Since we're in public hearing, I thought of a couple questions.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And Mr. Park actually just touched on one of my questions, and that is, would it be, given the property that is yet to develop, as you look at this map, would it be possibly a consideration to actually pause on the interim road standard and wait to see what else comes that may have a large trip generation, and then you would have a shared cost and build it to an urban standard? I mean, there's a lot left to develop, and you know, if we go ahead and ask this applicant to improve it to an interim, and then somebody else comes in that actually has a large trip generation, we'll probably say, well, now we're ready to go to urban.
It's possible. I don't know that really, I hate to say it, but that's your decision to make, and they're not always easy decisions on what to forecast. When you look across the street, Newberry Landing has already been approved, and preliminary plans have come through, the zoning has been done, it's been platted. So as you see development happen within that industrial subdivision, the policy doesn't apply. We don't look back to approve developments to say, now you got to do additional requirements. So we would be looking at additional development activity south of this project to really seek those road improvements in compliance with the policy. I don't know. I don't know that I would forecast when that would happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be generally, I'm saying a pause for, I don't know. I don't know if we could put a date on it, because you really wouldn't know. And actually, if you think about it, all the way to the railroad tracks, after the railroad tracks, then you're into, yeah, a lot of that land will never be developed, probably. But I mean, that's an idea. The other thing is, Councilmember Edson brought up the neighborhood improvement district. And I think we've got, of course, we have the school district, we have industrial, and I'm not sure how that would work. It would take all the property owners to agree to that, right? And pay into a fund.
It would. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but I think to try to create a neighborhood or community improvement district for a $150,000 project probably isn't practical. It's just not of the significance that you would normally see the establishment of one of those districts and the ongoing costs to run a district like that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing again and reopen the regular session again for council comments and discussion. Councilmember Edson?
It's still a great project.
Yeah.
So.
It is. Councilmember Shields?
I agree. It looks like a really great project, and I'm really torn on the question of the road improvements. But I don't feel like it's really fair to expect this development to shoulder costs of a road that's primarily being used by other existing developments. But I also see if we waive this policy again and again, then we never actually end up getting roads. So I'm open to that conversation if that's the way the council wants to go. But I really am nervous about continuing. I think it'll just be, we'll be asked to do it again and again and again. And there's always good reasons, but at the end of the day, then we end up with a city that doesn't have, able to that in our kind of policies. So I know that's a very wishy-washy comment, but I'm really kind of equally torn on that one. So.
Well, it's fine. I think I'm going to bring Mr. Dunning into the conversation and have a conversation with you. The concern Councilmember Shields is wishy-washy about is the problem is we've got an applicant that comes behind this that has done millions in road improvements because of what they've brought in and infill type of development. So we have to be consistent with you all. And I don't want developers telling me, to tell you how to do your job, as in you, Mr. Dunning. That's the concern I have. I want to be consistent. If this is a policy discussion, how do we have that later on? I'm not as concerned about this road as I am the use tax. I just want to be fair on the use tax because I know it's harder. Whereas you guys do these is this consistent with what you usually do?
It is. It's an incremental approach to road improvements, right? And I think of this area and I think about the middle school down there, and they had to do off-site improvements, some turn lane improvements, not in any proximity for the most part of the middle school. So they're over to Ranson Road and turn lane on Hamblen. So we try to not overburden, I'll say, development, but try to incrementally get that transportation network in place for those uses based on engineering practices, right? And so it feels like this is the straw that broke the camel's back on this one. And Mr. Park is right, recalling this development down here. That unimproved road policy came after a lot of this industrial area was platted and already in place. So, and that's something we don't go back. So as you look at this area and you think of that undeveloped area, we could take that portion out. Newberry Landings, that's already been through the process. This area, as Mr. Park said, it was new since we've had that unimproved road policy, and then the area is south. So it feels unfair because this will be perhaps the first as a part of a incremental approach to Hamblen Road, but as these future uses come on that are unknown at this point in time, they could be, depending on the traffic, they could be putting in a full urban street going to whatever development that they may bring. What is challenging too is what types of uses are being brought and what tools are available to help fund such improvements. So appreciate the ideas about a neighborhood improvement district, community improvement district, but I'd agree with Mr. Park that the magnitude of this probably doesn't rise to that level.
All right. I mean, it's a really, really, really nice warehouse that they're going to bring a lot of people to that typically doesn't drive the traffic, which makes it a challenge. All right, further discussion. I won't call it a warehouse. I say it's an industrial building. It sounds so much classier, industrial building, because it is. Okay, well then. Got it? Councilmember Edson. Would you please read Bill number 23-190?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, Mayor, that I do appreciate staff realizing that they didn't need curbs and gutters on this area and trying to give the business owner a break. So I just wanted to add that. And I will, of course, read this. I move to advance the second reading, Bill number 23-190, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for Tailormade Landing on land located at 1600 Southeast Hamblen Road, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33, the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. I have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-190 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it passes 7-0. Thank you for continuing to invest in Lee Summit with more. Can't wait to see it. Maybe I can take my grandkids there. Grandkids. I don't have a grandkid yet. That's how much I'm looking forward to sports, though. What? That's right.
I'll loan you 4 or 5.
Yeah. I'm a good hitting coach and a good fielding coach. I was not the best basketball coach. I was fast, but no. All right, let's close the regular session again and open the public hearing in the matter of application or agenda item 5B, preliminary development plan, streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13, 1000 and 1020 Northwest Pryor Road, Streets of West Pryor LLC is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk?
Getting blank screen.
Good evening, Matt Pennington, President of Drake Development, behind the Streets of West Pryor Development. Tonight I have Dave Olson here, who's our construction manager. I also have Ian Mooseman, who's our development director. And then I also have one of our users here, Mike Goldman with Waterway. So number of folks that can answer any questions that we have as we go through. I'm going to try and be as brief as possible because I'm not a huge fan of duplicate presentations. But I will just kind of give a little background of Streets of West Pryor, which I think a lot of you already know. You've been through the whole process. You've been through some of the minor changes that have really made this project go. I go back to when I stood in front of you all for Shake Shack and asked for a small variance on that building, which got us a drive-through. And that user itself really helped elevate this project to a new level. And you've seen how some of the different restaurants that have called this place home have landed here. So tonight I come with you with two new, well, best-in-class users is what I called them, essentially what I said Shake Shack was. Users that you would find in very high-end developments that a lot of developers are seeking out. Tonight we have two of them. One will be Waterway and the other one will be 30 Hop, and I'll get into those here in a second. The other thing that we're here for is we're coming in front of you for a revised PDP. And so more or less we're changing some of our plan that we had previously. So I say how important some of these small changes are to give a development the go and the wherewithal to land more tenants. I use Shake Shack as a really good example of how that's really truly elevated this. It's a minor example, but if you look at the number of restaurants that we've landed ever since, it's been incredible. So the PDP, unfortunately, I thought I had a red line around what we were talking about here. So this is what our original TIF plan was. So if you see where the hotel is located there, up by 470, you can see the hotel. There was a 7,000 square foot restaurant. We all approved Crack Shack and Via 313, which is lot 12 on the hard corner of 470 and Pryor. And then tonight we're in front of you on lot 11, which in this plan showed a 7,500 square foot restaurant building. Fast forward to the revised PDP, what we're in front of you tonight for, lot 11 was showing that restaurant building. It's now what we're calling Waterway. He is here tonight. Lot 13 is a concept. It will be a new restaurant building, 12,500 square feet. That will include a concept called 30 Hop. I think the best way to describe what 30 Hop is if you've all been to Yard House or an American upscale cuisine, that's what we've been able to land here. So this will be first to the Kansas City metro market. I've been blessed to be able to tell you that on Crack Shack Via, Shake Shack on the first drive-through in the country. So again, we're blessed with another great two users for this development. And then if you look at lot 14, I've shifted the hotel. And this is just based off user comment or, feedback from some of our users. We are finally getting good traction with the hotel. I'm hoping to be back in front of you with hopefully plans as we move forward with that hotel component. So that's been a long time coming. It's been tough to get that hotel component for a number of reasons, but I think we'll finally be in front of you soon. What's 30 Hop? Here's what 30 Hop is. It's like I said, it's an upscale American flair. A lot of it's focused on an outdoor patio, bringing the user in. The food is fantastic, and they are based out of Iowa. So I like to use this as kind of a feather in the cap user. If you're out of Iowa, any type of developer would love to have this user in their development. This is an aerial view. What you see here is Waterway. This is on the corner as you come into the development. Waterway is a upscale, best-in-class, essentially car wash. But you see them in like the town center developments, very, very high-end developments. I've had a number of LOIs. When I say LOIs, letter of intent, number of users that have begged to be on this corner. And they include different users such as convenience stores, other car washes. But the number one thing I hear from residents, and when I've done all these neighborhood meetings and I consistently come back and forth, is we need gas. And so as I've been super blessed to be able to pick and choose users, we've been able to work with Mike and his group to incorporate gas into Waterway. And Waterway's a full service car wash that you actually get out of your car. There will be a convenience store aspect to it. And then you will be able to get gas, not only as a customer of Waterway, but as a customer if you just needed gas. So those are the different things we've worked through over the last really 6 months on this project to get this refined and then taking it through Planning Commission. We've held the neighborhood meetings. The neighborhood meeting was fantastic. We have a really good rapport with them. There was no opposition. And then we went through Planning Commission. There was some minor changes in Planning Commission. Really, it was based off the kind of a turn radius. How wide was it as you come out of those pumps? I love going through some of those because it does end up turning the project better, even though it was kind of an inconvenience. So we come in front of you today with a unanimous approval at Planning Commission. Super excited to have these users. I can get into some of the different slides of, what it's going to look like. It is a modern building. It's really well done. Like I said, Mike is here with Waterway to answer any questions. I don't want to steal his thunder if you really want to hear more about it, but ultimately we, again, are lucky to be in front of you with two best-in-class users, 30 Hop and Waterway. The back building where we are doing the 12,500 square foot restaurant building, that will include 30 Hop, and we are working with 2 more restaurants back there as well. So one of the questions I always get is, well, how many restaurants do you have out there? There's just so many. And so I think it's relevant for this conversation because we are changing use on the corner pad here where Waterway was, and we were showing it as a restaurant. So I'm just going to kind of fast forward. Here you can see the canopies. There are going to be gas pumps. And I can let Mike answer any questions you have. But I'm going to quickly go into the development use comparison. We always kind of go back to, well, what did it look like when we came in here originally? And it was the TIF plan, the development plan. Is it paying back? Are we performing? And so the answer is yes, it is performing. It's exceeding our expectations. But I thought it was really positive to note here, and I highlighted in yellow, and it is in your packet tonight, where if you had any questions on what users we've done and are we consistent with our previous plans, I think the answer is yes, we're consistent with our previous plans, but yet we've been super blessed and exceeded the restaurant category, and that's really helped amplify some of that TIF reimbursement. So tonight we are, yes, asking for a change in use on that corner with Waterway. Super happy that it is them. We are going to answer some of the concerns of the neighborhood with getting that gas there, and not only landing 30 Hop, but you can see we're way outpacing. We're 30% above our anticipated restaurants. So that's all I have for you tonight, and I look forward to any questions.
Okay, we'll do the staff's presentation, and then we'll come back for questions.
Good evening, Hector Soto Jr., Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 22.
Please enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 22.
So as what has been mentioned already, this application is for the continued development of streets of West Pryor, specifically lots 11 and 13. Here are those areas again that are highlighted. We've got lot 11 is the one at that hard corner of A Road, which is A Road is what that northern drive is referred to. So we're looking at that hard corner of A Road and Pryor Road. So the property is located within the Summit Activity Center, one of the goals of which is to provide an interface between residential development and commercial development that's supplemental and complementary to each other, providing adequate services to those residents in the area that are within walkable or drivable distance, provide for a better living experience in that. Again, here's that project overview with the 2 lots highlighted. So the area that is clouded is the gas pump, the fueling station area, which was subject of the majority of the concerns or comments at the Planning Commission meeting. I'll provide side by side. So some of the concern was with the original plan, which was on the left, there was some concern regarding turning movements, traffic circulation here at the entrance into the facility, where there could be some potential conflict between gas users and the entrance to the twin tunnel car wash. So as you can see in the clouded area to the left, to the right rather, the second iteration that was brought before the Planning Commission and now before you, it provides some better defined circulation paths to exit the site. Here there's some orientation to the gas pumps that is more diagonal in nature, so that gas-only type users, and so I guess one point of confusion and we later clarified was that the users of the gas facilities aren't required to funnel through the car wash. So you will have some gas-only users. So under the original configuration, there was some concern that some of those turning movements would conflict with incoming traffic trying to access the queues or the twin tunnels. So here you could see that what was better provided was a more defined exit for some of these, for the vehicles that would be exiting the fueling station. And so as not to require them to make turning movements that go back against the grain, excuse me, for incoming traffic that's, again, trying to access these queue lanes. So as the applicant has stated, the comments that came out of Planning Commission did end up with a better product in the end, facilitate some of that on-site traffic circulation. Here's the proposed architecture. The majority of the material to be used here is composed of aluminum composite metal paneling, some wood look fiber cement board, and some glass. Here are a couple perspectives of that view, that building. So lot 13 is the back building, the multi-tenant restaurant site. As was alluded to, there was some shifting from the original plan where originally this is where the hotel was supposed to be located, with the restaurant used more north into the here. So there was just some shifting of some uses that were already called out. It was just, again, just some reorientation within the development as to where some of these uses would be located. So here's the elevation that you've already looked at. The mustard colored accent pieces here on this building are an architectural metal. They constitute about 10% of the facade on this south elevation and about 14 to 15% on this east elevation. So the use of metal in this, to this extent, does require approval as part of the plan as a conditional material. Staff is supportive of it. Already seen the introduction of some architectural metal in other developments, well, other pad sites within this development, namely Shake Shack uses a significant amount, and their building has turned out to be attractive in the eyes of the folks that have frequented and seen that building. There are a couple requests here for some additional signage. In essence, what is being requested is allowance for on waterway building, which is a single tenant building. Our ordinance allows a maximum of 3 wall signs, and one of the requests is to allow 1 wall sign per building exposure. So there would be 1 sign on each of the 4 facades. So staff is supportive of that. There would also be some additional signage, copy and emblem on the canopy, which is consistent with other fueling stations throughout town. And on the multi-tenant building, what's being requested, similar to what was requested on waterway, is that for the end cap spaces, with it having 3 exposures, the request is to have 1 wall sign on each of the 3 exposures. On multi-tenant buildings, our ordinance allows a maximum of 2 wall signs, but on these 2 end caps, there would be 3. There was a neighborhood meeting that was held, but there were no attendees. And there are 3 conditions of approval associated with this development. So with that, I will yield to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions for staff or applicant from council? Sounds like planning commission reworked a little bit of it, reworked some angles and made it even better. So we got to remember to tell them that next week.
Let them know.
All right. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Please come forward. Any additional questions from council? Does the applicant care to make any further comment? No further testimony. I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Member Hodges.
Thank you. I just want to make a quick comment on to say how thankful I am that you guys are adding the gas pumps. I have had so many people come to me and say, there needs to be a gas station right here. So thank you for adding that. And I love all of this. And thank you for bringing another great restaurant as well. So really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mayor Patim Lopez.
Just kind of along the same lines, Mr. Pennington, thank you and your group for continuing to bring good quality services, retail services, and retail options for citizens and people that want to come into the city to shop. So thanks again for that. And I think Councilmember Hodges had whispered in my ear, I thought you maybe heard her talk about the gas pumps, but I know a lot of people have been asking about that in that area. So thanks for listening and bringing what the market wants. So thank you. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to echo the same comment and say thank you. My family spends a lot of time there. Well, my kids love BB Bop, so yeah, we spend a lot of time over there. So thank you for bringing another good restaurant. And as they said, we're constantly getting comments about wanting a gas station there. I guess I would like to know, are there still plans for like a conference center within that hotel at all? Just, is it okay if I ask that question or no?
Yeah, I'm not going to open the public hearing, but you can
Oh,
answer
is
that for us.
Okay.
Go ahead, come up, please.
So at the time, there's not right now. Right now, we're just focused on a nice hotel.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if that would be a public hearing question or just like just because I'm curious.
I mean,
question.
it depends. Do you want to get Matt Pennington on the record with something that he says? I mean, we open it up, we get him on the record, and we bring it back later, a couple years from now. And
Well, if the answer was no, so I mean, I'm not, that was, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you, Mayor. Just more of the same. Thank you for investing in Lee Summit, and everybody I know enjoys the restaurants, enjoys everything over there. And when I tell them what's coming next, they're going to be excited. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
I just wanted to say, especially Councilmember DeMoro, I like every time I talk to him, he's always picking up lunch at Kava. Yeah, BB Bob. He's all goes there a lot for lunch. Probably your biggest customer.
All right, well, it's kind of to the point where you have to have debates and discussions about what your favorite place at Streets of West Pryor is, which is a great thing. And we did get Mr. Pennington on the record for saying that he's still going for a hotel. We've been keeping the pressure on him all these years, and he survived COVID, and he's still hanging in there for the chance for a hotel, which is very exciting. I did a Google search on 30 Hop, and it looks pretty cool. Gas station on the west side of town. Both of our West District council members are not here to express that they probably would like a place to get some gas. So I think we need to go ahead and read this one. Councilmember DeMoro, would you please read Bill number 23-191?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to second reading, Bill number 23-191, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13 located at 1,000 Northwest Pryor Road and 1,020 Northwest Pryor Road, all in accordance with provisions of Chapter 33, Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-191 by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you for bringing some other great businesses to Lee Summit, and looking forward to it. I do need to open the public hearing for one moment and to get a continuance. So I'm going to close the regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of agenda item 5C, rezoning from CP2 to RP3. It's a PMIX and preliminary redevelopment plan. Griffin Riley Property Group is the applicant. Could I please get a motion? Councilmember Shields.
Mayor, I move to continue the public hearing in the matter of application PL 2023-093 to a date certain of October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. I have a motion to move to, or to continue this to, what was it, October 24th, 2023 by Councilmember Shields, seconded. I had Councilmember DeMauro on here as a second. All right, so he was quick to push the button. And a second by Councilmember DeMauro. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 7-0. All right, you want to break or you want to finish strong? Finish strong. Proposed ordinances. Forwarded from committee. Councilmember Shields, would you please read Bill number 23-192?
Certainly, Mayor, did we need to see if there were any public comments?
Oh, yes, we do need to see if there's public comments. Are there any public comments?
I have not received any public comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Shields.
I move for second reading of Bill number 23-192, an ordinance approving amendment number 4 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, as adopted by ordinance number 9704, ordinance number 9705, ordinance number 9706, ordinance number 9707, ordinance number 9708, by amending the authorized expenditures, approving the transfer of money between funds, and amending the pay and classification plan for the city.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-192 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 7-0. Councilmember Shields, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I now move for adoption of Bill number 23-192, an ordinance approving amendment number 4 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, as adopted by ordinance number 9704, ordinance number 9705, ordinance number 9706, ordinance number 9707, ordinance number 9708, by amending the authorized expenditures, approving the transfer of money between funds, and amending the pay and classification plan for the city.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-192 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Hodges, would you please read Bill number 23-193?
Thank you. I move to second reading Bill number 23-193, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Department of Public Safety in the amount of $9,675.15 for equipment for the Lee Summit Police Department's co-responders, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading Bill number 23-193 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember DeMauro. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Hodges, would you please?
I move for the adoption of Bill number 23-193, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Department of Public Safety in the amount of $9,675.15 for equipment for the Lee Summit Police Department's co-responders, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-193 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in, please record the vote. Passes unanimously, thank you. That takes us to proposed ordinances, first reading. Councilmember Pryor, would you please read bill number 23-194?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to a second reading, Bill number 23-194, and an ordinance approving modification number 5 to the on-call agreement for environmental professional engineering services yearly contract, original RFQ number 2020-061, renewal 2020-061/R3 between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Stearns, Conrad, and Schmidt Consulting Engineers, Inc., DBA SCS Engineers, in the amount of $168,872.50 for environmental support services, Market Plaza redevelopment area demolition for the downtown Market Plaza, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 23-194 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in, please record the vote. It does move to second reading unanimously. Thank you. And then this next one on the bylaws, before we read it, can I have like Ms. Weber, Crystal Weber, tell us what this bylaw change is? She did send an email today, but just to get it out there in the public and council members, always appreciate that.
Crystal Weber, Assistant City Manager. So this is hard to admit in public on TV, but this bylaw change is because a typo that I made during the numerous revisions. So you remember our industry representatives, if you notice under sports and rec, it says sports and rec interest. The hotel and restaurant dining interest was say the same thing, and I forgot to change them and didn't catch it through all the times we brought it forward. So that is my error. I apologize for having to bring it back to you, but we wanted to correct it before we filed the state paperwork. So apologies for that.
Thank you. I'll let Mayor Pro Tem Lopez read it and we can discuss if we need to.
Sure, thanks, Mayor. I move to advance a second reading, bill number 23-195, an ordinance amending the bylaws of the Lee Summit Visitors Bureau, a Missouri 501c6 corporation in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt bill number 23-19. We have a motion to move to second reading. It is bill number 23-195 by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in, please record the vote. Passes 7-0. Thanks for catching the typo so we don't have to debate this in a year, what the intent was. 2 years or 3 years from now or 10 years from now. Committee reports. Yes, Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. We have CEDC tomorrow night here at 5 o'clock.
Excellent, thank you. All right, Councilmember DeMorrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Last night we had, or yesterday afternoon, we had a Public Works meeting. We discussed the no tax increase bond priorities along with the CIP revenue options. Went through all that. We had the snow presentation. We had a water services strategic plan, and seems like there was something. The master plan, yeah, the water services master plan, and we talked about keeping varmints, wildlife, and birds out of the airport runways.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir. All right. Council comments. Member Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, you sent the council members an email telling us that next week we're having a joint work session with the Planning Commission. And you also indicated that that session will be followed by a work session with the EDC board. The work session with EDC, as you noted in your email, was requested by the EDC board and not by the council. I'd like to open this up for discussion by council because I see no reason for having a work session with the EDC. It's been more than a year since we terminated our public service agreement with them. because they were in breach of their contract with us. Our PSA was an agreement between the city and the EDC board, not their executive director. And it was the board who failed to ensure that they were in compliance with that contract. And I feel like we've moved on. It's been more than a year. We've hired a consultant to give us best practices. We've had multiple conversations about where we want to go next. We had a large stakeholder event a few months ago to get other people's ideas and input about where we go next. And I just think we're already down the road, and I just don't see any reason to have this work session with the EDC next week. That's my opinion, and I'd like to hear what others have to say.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you, Mayor. I do agree with Councilmember Edson. There seemed to be at that time no lack or no understanding of the lack of leadership, and of course then we went through started the discovery of the non-performance and lack of fiscal responsibility. And since then, or during that period, and going back to 2020, we've had 5 or 6 meetings, and it's just for lack of a better word, the ship has sailed. I mean, we went through all that, the pain and all the reports and all the breaches and everything, and we have, as Councilmember Edson said, we've moved on. We're looking for a new start. Whatever that is, we've yet to decide. We hired a consultant, and I think again that we have weathered the storm. We can do this and come out better at the other side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I personally would like to have a conversation still. I'm a communications person, and I think communication is important. So I personally would like to see us still have the work session and the conversation, but ultimately I'll do what council decides.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Can you provide any additional insight on how you would see that work session going? Like what, what conversation they want to have, or what the topics would be, like, right, without just an open forum. Like, I don't really know how I feel about it.
Right, that's a good question. I would say for 5 years, or however long I've been sitting in this seat, I've tried to get the EDC to engage with council. And I've been on record starting in the summer of 18 when I first became mayor. And I want collaboration and engagement. And I feel like the last time we had them here in April of 21, they didn't want to be here and they didn't want to engage with us. And we told them that the relationship had to change and they needed to engage and collaborate with us. And they didn't. So pretty much, I think it was this body decided to not fund them in 1 year later in June of 22. So that's how we got here. That was 14, 15 months ago. It's taken this long for them to, they've never asked for a work session before. And I have not stopped asking them to engage with council, that we have to have relationships. But here we are, like I think the way Councilmember Edson summarized it, we're at the end where we've chosen some potential paths, or at least to start over with a new EDO, and they have requested a conversation. And I can tell you that it has to be, I've been in 20, I did the math on it, I've been in about 28 meetings with them over the last 14 months. That's 2 meetings a month. And they were not meetings run by me, I was a member of their board. So it was very difficult to be on a level playing field when, I'm representing the largest investor in the EDC. It was a challenge. But here they are and they want to engage. So hopefully they'll come in and talk about their desires and wishes, what what they'd like to do with bylaws, strategic plan, lining up with us, board leadership changes, which have been occurring behind the scenes, administrative leadership changes, which we all know we don't have an executive director. We've got an interim. I mean, they just have a lot of things that need to be addressed, and I'm willing to let them come in here and tell us how they want to address them. I've been trying for 14 months, and this is probably one of the more positive steps they've taken, so I accepted the request. And I think that we should at least let them speak, and I think you'll see whether or not they're ready to move forward or not. I think it'll become apparent, and if they're capable. Because, like, I've been in there for 14 months, and I've questioned at times if there's a will on their part. Even though they've asked for this work session, I do question whether or not there's a will to move forward. Only because I haven't, as you'll hear in the work session, I haven't had any positive reports for you in quite some time. Positive as in moving forward. This was the first positive thing I've had to tell you in quite some time. Now, it is late in the game, but I just think we need to be seen as a collaborative council, a listening council, and we don't even, I mean, I'm not going to let it become, I'm not going to preside over a meeting that's disrespectful, like the public comments we got that one week, but I think we can get through it and make decisions, just because I have confidence in you all. But how's that?
That's fair. I think I'm always open to listening. I can, fine with having that on our agenda. I'm skeptical at this point. As you said, it's been a really, really long process that got us here. And it seems like the organization is, as I understand it, has kind of hollowed out. Like you say, there's been changes in leadership. There's an interim director. I think they've lost a lot of investors. Like, I don't really know that the EDC as an entity is what it once was. I'm not really sure what they're even capable of at this point, given that structure. But it never hurts to listen. I'm fine with that. I hope that, and I'm sure you will establish some good ground rules to have a productive discussion. So, yeah, that's fine.
I also know that we have a couple council members that probably that are not here that would strongly, I know Councilmember Felker has strongly expressed his desires for a work session. I can't let us have this conversation without stating that, so. I'm sure Councilmember Lovell wants to have a work session too, but that's hard for me because I haven't talked to him about it, but I do kind of know where Councilmember Lovell sits based on the last best practices we had. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I think I lean more towards what Councilmember Edson was saying. I feel like I'd prefer not to do it, but I understand why we're going that direction. But I feel like it's one of those, it's a too little too late kind of thing where, yeah, we need to listen. But there's also a point where we say it's time to move on. And I think we've reached that a long time ago. It would be nice to just move on and stop dwelling in the past and say we're ready for a fresh start, which is why we took the drastic move that we did. But I just wanted to make a point that I do agree with Councilmember Edson in that I would prefer to just start fresh and work ground up, because that's kind of what we're set up to do. So let's just move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Thanks, Mayor. Not to be repetitive at this time in the evening, but yeah, I mean, I've been here during the entire period that we as a council collectively, I know there's been a change in a few council representatives, but we collectively saw concerns in the way the current or previous EDC had been operating. And this body of council members, along with yourself, Mayor, it was pretty unanimous. We all agreed that, you know, we had serious concerns, and so that's why we're here, right? And I've said it before, and I think it is time to move on. But in the manner of just being open-minded. You know, I know we talked about an exploratory committee, but I'm willing to grant them the work session just to hear them out. But yeah, that's how I feel. Thanks.
Thank you. The hard part is, I agree with everything pretty much that's been said up here. It's not like I disagree with anyone, but when I hear, it's time to move forward, that it's time to stop talking about and dwelling on the past. And at the same time, I want to make sure everybody knows where we came from. Councilmember Edson kind of paraphrased, you know, gave a quick summary. I feel like I need to at least give you all a timeline or something so that you can see the evolution of this, because you've received letters, you've received emails, you've received all these different things over the last couple of years, and it's kind of a lot. And I was going to try to put together the timeline last weekend, and there's so much that I don't want to bring the timeline up into the work session. I just want you all to see the timeline visually, and so I can try to do that, get that to you so that you can see where we are. And then go into the meeting with just listening to them and knowing where we've came from, but still trying to see if there's any way to work with them going forward. So you waved a piece of paper at me, but I don't see your name on the. Would you email that to me? You can save me a bunch of time. Oh, that would be great. I just think it's good to share. I mean, I sent them a really long email, you know, for staff. I sent the council a really long email saying, okay, here's what we're doing, here's a work session, and just trying to plot out the next few weeks so that they can see that this is, how do we do this expeditiously? Because that's what you all have kept telling me. I want to move forward, and I don't want to take it to take a year. That's what I kept hearing. I don't want to take this long. We already know which direction we want to go, I've heard. And I mean, we're don't tell us things we already know. So I'm trying to say, okay, council is ready to move forward. And I hear it, I understand it, so it's time. And then I've got this request, and I'm like, well, this is either meant to be, or it's meant to be as in, you know, a change in direction, or it's meant to be that we just move forward like we have talked about, discussed. Yes, sir, Councilmember DeMoro.
I think you said it, but I'm going to reiterate it, and that is, you know, this has been going on for almost 3 years. And I don't want people to think that in June of 2022, we had a couple meetings and decided to terminate a contract. It started in December of 2020. And for people that weren't paying attention, you know, everything was set up on this dais, and all you had to do was listen. So again, I appreciate that we're not going to go back in history and talk about that. But I wanted to let everybody know it started in December of 2020, the talk.
Yeah, you're bringing back some nightmares for me.
Oh.
December 2020, I remember, oh, awful.
Yep, but anyway, thank you.
I remember the discussion too. It was awful.
And Councilmember Edson, I'm sure she's got that on.
And I remember the vote, so I'm not surprised at what I'm hearing tonight. All right, thank you. It was a good discussion. Thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Dunn, do you want to comment on that EDC, EDO thing? Anything at all? Okay. Then I will ask, are there any other council comments? That kind of, I hope maybe I'm going to try to make one of these events, the cleaning events. It's not on my calendar, but I'll just have to carve it out. Staff roundtable?
Yeah, tagging on to those events, so just a reminder that that's community service hours for high school students, scout groups, things of that nature. So all of those events qualify for those needing community service hours. A couple quick things. The city's hosting a career fair. That's out there in the public. That'll be Wednesday, October 18th, from 2 to 7 at the Gamber Center. It's a come and go event, but anybody interested in careers with the city, we'll have staff there available to help expose them to the variety of occupations and roles and responsibilities we provide as a municipality. And then this just in, I know you were all made aware, I believe earlier this morning, but talking about the downtown Market Plaza, planning for a groundbreaking for that project not next Tuesday, Tuesday the 24th, a couple weeks from today at 4:30 before our council meeting. So we'll get more details on that and we'll plan accordingly to.
Like the way we planned that out on right before the meeting.
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
You know, I thought of something. I forgot to ask Drake Development, Matt Pennington, see if he could, do you remember that first year the Shake Shack was done and it had, I mean, they lit that thing up like a Christmas tree. That was gorgeous. And then last year, I don't think they did those
weren't there.
lights.
They
And I
weren't
was
there
so
last year.
disappointed to go by Shake Shack and not see those pretty, I mean, was that cool that first year? Do you remember that? I mean, we need to make a special request, you know? I should have put him on the spot.
Well, we can get the community behind them that visit that establishment, just saying,
Yeah.
help us out.
Oh, believe me,
Looks
my
beautiful.
daughter visits that establishment every week. Brings home a burger in front of me and I'm like, it's not fair. All right. Hey, what time is it? We've got 7:48 and this meeting is adjourned.